Alright, so in this video I want to go over the Maya hotkeys. Incredibly important to know, obviously, for navigating, moving around, and such. So let's start at the top here and work our way through. Orbiting, view, tracking, panning. Let's close that. If we hold Alt, left mouse button, this is our orbiter. Middle mouse button is tracking, and then right is like zooming or dollying is what they call it. So Alt left, Alt middle, and Alt right. Okay, obviously we need to use all the time to get into that. The other one that's next on the list is going to our last view. So if we accidentally zoom in, move somewhere we didn't want to move, we can't just undo. It won't undo. We'll get an error down at the bottom. We can use the left bracket though to go back in views, and the right bracket to go forward views. And that's how you can undo your view to see like where exactly you were at. Framing objects. So if I have an item here, I can hit A to frame all so I can see everything. Or I can grab an item and hit F and it'll frame just that one item. Again, very helpful to be able to get to where you're needing to get to. The next ones up here are 4, which is wireframe mode. So if I need to see what this looks like in wireframe, or 5, which is shaded mode. 6, if I hit this, nothing is going to happen right now because there's no textures. But let's go and add a standard surface to this. Go to our color swatch, and I'm just going to add in a checkerboard. Okay, so if I hit 4, I don't see the checkerboard. I hit 5, I just see the shaded. If I hit 6, I'll see the checkerboard on here. And that's true for any texture you add to your items. If you don't hit 6, you will not see the texture. So you may want to highlight that one because usually people forget about it. And then 7 is lighting. So right now there's no lights in the scene, so just like before, I'm going to add a light. Now these lights are the default Maya ones. Let me go to the Arnold ones. And I believe, yeah, there we go. So we can kind of see that light working. I'm going to take the intensity up on it. There we go. And so now we can get a little preview of what the lighting is going to do in the scene. It's not a locked in, like, this is exactly what the lighting is going to look like, but it's a starting point representation of it. You can see we were even getting a little bit of a reflection in there as well. Okay, so that's all these 4 here. You'll notice they're in order, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then rough model, medium model, smooth model. So if I grab this sphere and I'm going to take the divisions down, so let's say 7, or yeah, it's fine. So right now it's a very rough mode. So this is basically if I hit 1 on the keyboard, that's what mode we're in. If I hit 3, it'll go into the smooth mode. You can see it's basically smoothing out that surface. And if I hit 2, it'll actually show me the rough and the smooth. Okay, so it'll render like this. If I hit 3, it'll render smooth. If I hit 1, it'll render like this. So you just want to be aware of that so that when you do animate something, that it is smoothed out if you want it smooth. Sometimes people forget about that. Standard full screen control spacebar. So if I hit control spacebar, you'll see that all of my menus and stuff disappear, so I can focus on just my viewport. Control spacebar again, we're back to where we were. Sometimes people like to work like that, so it's a quick hotkey. Also, the color of the background, Alt B, will cycle through the different colors of your background. There's ways you can customize all of your stuff here by going to preferences and color settings. But for now, that's really all you really need to worry about for color settings or backgrounds. And then jumping in and out of your view is tapping the spacebar. So if you tap the spacebar, you can jump to the top view, the side view, the perspective view. If you hold the spacebar down and hold right here in the middle, you can also switch views that way. So it's not on the list, but that's a definite easy way to get to those other views. The menus at the top, modeling, rigging, animation, FX, and rendering. F2, F3, F4, F5, and F6. Okay, so just clicking those will switch to the different menus at the top, making it easier for you to get to those things if you needed to switch to a different menu. And again, holding down the space bar, this brings up the hotbox, which has all of those menu items listed right inside of it. These ones I don't need to really go over. Control New, Control O, and Control S for new scene, open scene, and save scene. Important ones to have on hand. moving and selecting stuff. So if I hit Q, this will bring up my selector, which is this arrow right here, so I can just select stuff. Okay, so I'm not moving anything. Sometimes you may accidentally, if you grab the move tool, you may think you're marqueing it, but you accidentally just move something out of the way. So you may want to grab the select tool, and then you can marquee and then switch to whatever tool you want. W is move, to move the item around. Oops. E is rotate, so you can rotate the item. R is scale, so you can scale the item. And then the next two, which are show manipulator and last tool used. Okay, so if I hit T, that brings up this area right here. So in this case, the last tool I used on this item was creating the sphere. So this basically brings up a little menu that says, okay, well, what radius do you want? How many divisions do you want? And I could adjust it from there. If I had something, let's say, I'm going to extrude, yes. I'm going to not keep faces together, and I'm going to pull this out. There we go. So let's say I switch to the move tool. I've clicked off of this, oops, and I'm done using that item. But then I want to go back and edit it. If I hit T on it, it'll bring up the last item that's inside my inputs here. If I go there, then I have these options where, again, I can adjust what these settings are. Maybe I do want to keep faces together or not. Maybe I want to add divisions between them. Maybe I want to get back to the original sphere. If I click on this sphere here, I get back to those original settings that I had, and then I can adjust all of those settings. Okay, so that's what that T is going to do. That's showing the manipulator for that last tool. The other one that's out there is Y. So I'm going to go to a spotlight, and this is a Maya spotlight. If I hit Y on this, it brings up a different manipulator, and basically it allows me to have the spotlight in one spot and having it aiming at another spot. So I can very easily kind of move around where I want this thing to light up. Okay, and there's also this little blue ticker where I can click that and get different options for what this is affecting on the light. Okay, so sometimes you'll use that as well for different items. A tool that people usually hit on accident, which is soft select. So I'm going to go to my vertices here, and I'm going to grab on this vertex, and I'm going to hit B, and you'll see how it changes color from that blue and purple color. Now I have yellows and reds in here along with purple, and then if I try to move this, I'm getting this like weird stretchy deformation. Okay, basically this is soft select, and it's showing us, you know, as I move the top point, it's softly moving the rest of them. Okay, so keep that one again in your tool bag, because at some point you're going to hit it on accident or need it and have to get to it. Increasing or decreasing the manipulator size. As I move stuff, this is my manipulator. If I use the minus keys or the plus keys, I can make that manipulator bigger or smaller. Okay, so good to have on hand. And then completing a tool is enter. So if I'm in a tool like, let's say I hit 5. I'm going to grab this section here, delete that. And then I'm going to go to my append tool, and I'm just going to click on this and then go there. So let's say that I'm done drawing after I get to this point. I'm done, I hit enter. Okay, and that gets me completing that tool. Okay. Some tools you may want to stay in, and you can hit that Y key and it'll actually complete the tool and bring you back into it. So if I were to draw this, and I want to then draw this last section, I hit Y, and then it keeps me in that tool, and then once I'm all done, I can hit enter, and now it's done, closed off. Moving the pivot is D inside Maya, so if you hit D, you can just drag it. If you hold D, you can drag it, and then when you're done, you just let go, and it jumps back. I don't need to save that. Okay, so again, another hotkey you may need at some point is to change where that pivot is on something. Attribute editor is Control A. So typically I'll use the attribute editor to get to my materials, to get to different items that I'm adjusting. Let me hit 6 on here. I can go back to this arrow. There we go. I change the color of that item. Okay, through the attribute editor. Set key is S. And remember, when we hit S and set key on things, it's going to set keys on everything unless we have our settings changed to a different number or to a different setup. Undo is Z, so it's not Control Z. Control Z works, but Z, regular Z, is typically how you can do it. So save yourself the finger power and just hit regular Z. And then if you want to redo something, you just hit Shift Z, and it'll go through and it'll redo those commands that you did. Repeating an action is G. So if I did something, let's say I grabbed these three faces here, I extruded them, and then I want to extrude that again. I can just hit G, and it'll bring me back to the extrude. Hit G again. Maybe I'll take the offset in. Hit G again. Push this in. Okay, so G is like I just did something, I want to do it again. Hit G. Duplicating is Control D, and then duplicating with transform is Shift D. As wonderful as this is, I'm just going to delete it. So let's say I have an item here like so, and I want to duplicate it. I can just hit Control D, and then I have a copy of it, and then I can just scoot it over. Now if I hit Shift D, what Shift D will do is it'll remember what it just did. Like you duplicated it and you moved it this way, and then Shift D, Shift D, Shift D will just keep duplicating it the same amount. It's kind of like step and repeat inside of Illustrator. Now what's neat about this is I could duplicate it, scoot it up, scoot it over, maybe give it a little bit of rotation, and then hit Shift D again, and you'll see how I'm able to make this like spirally type pattern. Okay, so pretty easy, just using Control D for the first one, and then Shift D for all the other ones. Grouping is Control G. So here's my stairway. I want to group everything, so I'm going to grab it and hit Control G. That puts it inside of a group. And then let's say that I forgot one. Okay, so let's say I forgot to put this grouping of ones inside here. Instead of me grabbing everything again and grouping it again, what I can do is I can grab those ones that aren't in there, then click the group, and then just hit P. And what P is going to do is basically parent these items to that group. And it'll put them inside there so that now they're all back together. Okay, so grouping is Control G, parenting is P, and then unparenting is Shift P. So let's say I want to grab these and take them out. I hit Shift P, and it'll pull them out of that group, so they're no longer part of that group. F8 is component mode, so if I hit F8, it brings me into component mode to select the components of the item, and I can move the components. I can choose what I have here, so instead of faces, let's say I want points. Grab the points, and then I can adjust where those points are at. Or I can grab edges, and then adjust where those edges are at. Okay. Get back out of that, you just hit F8 again. Now I'm out of it. And I can tell too, because in component mode you'll see the colors are different. Here they're typically going to be white and green. In component mode you're going to see they're blue and this like peachy color, okay, or purple depending on what you have selected. The next one is hide selected, Control H, and then show selected, Shift H. I don't want these, so I can Control H, hide them. If I want to bring them back, I grab them in here and hit Shift H, and it'll bring them back. Apparently I had some in here selected as well. Notice the color difference. These are a bit brighter. These are dimmer. And there's still one more right there. And then Maya actually added a new hotkey, which is just H. So you can use Control H to hide stuff, Shift H to bring stuff back, or you can use just regular H. And the benefit of it is Control H will deselect your stuff, whereas just regular H hides it but still shows the selection. Adding something to the shelf, Control Shift clicking. So every time you want something up here, you just hold Control Shift and you go to that item, and then it'll be listed. And then you can right click and delete it if you don't want it. Grow or shrink selection. Let's grab a different item here. Let's grab a sphere. So I have basically this shape, selected here, I want to grab the next ring out. Instead of me having to go through and grab the next ring out, and then grab the next ring out, and so on, I can grab basically this selection. Come on. And then use the shift greater than to grow that selection out, or shift less than to shrink that selection. Okay, so again, helpful things, helpful things. Artisan. This is brushes inside Maya, and I'm going to show it for the sculpt tool, but there really is a whole lot of different areas that would use the same kind of stuff. Go here. All right, so the first one is brush size. Hold B, left mouse button drag. So if I hold B and I left mouse button drag, I don't know where that went. There it is. There it goes. I don't know why it took so long to do that. Now I changed the brush size. Whoa, that's huge. So this is obviously adjusting those points. If I have too much, I can hold down M and left mouse button drag. Let me just shrink it here first, and then M and drag up. There we go. And now you can see I'm barely moving that. So that's maximum displacement, or strength is what that's doing. Inverting is control. So if I need to, instead of pulling, which is what this is doing, I hold control, I can then push into the surface. If I hold shift, it'll then smooth into the surface. Okay. And then using U, you can select what tool you're doing. Come on. Doesn't want to play nice right now. All right. So I did. All right. It's not playing nice on my screen, but that's what it should do. And it is possible that maybe my update got rid of it. Sometimes it changes that, or I may have reassigned it. I'll look into that one, but that's what that hotkey is supposed to do, is allow you to choose which tool you're using. Yeah, I don't know, the right mouse button's working, but not that one. And then snapping. These are important ones too. Let's just delete that. Let's delete this group. Let's go to create cube. All right, so I want to move my pivot to the bottom of this. So I'm going to hold down D. If I just arbitrarily move this, it's not going to be lined up to anything. So if I hold down D and then hold down V and then grab this arrow, it'll actually snap to items that are nearby. So it's snapping to the bottom corner here, which should make it flat on the bottom. Then when I raise this up, so I'm going to hold down X and drag the top arrow. And so what I've just done here is I've snapped it to the point that's on the box, and then I've snapped it to the grid. Okay. So as I duplicate stuff, sometimes I will duplicate, hold down V, and then drag in a direction. You'll see how it's snapping right to that point. I could also hold down DV, let's say move this pivot right to the corner here. And I can hold down V and just drag it, and it'll snap right to it. Okay, so very easily we can snap to that. Or if I hold down X and drag, it'll snap to the grid. If I hold down C, this one works a little bit differently. I can't click and drag here because it won't snap to anything. I hold C, and then I middle mouse button drag where I want it to be. So right here, you can see now I can snap this right along this edge. Okay, so that's X, C, and V. And if you look at them, X looks like a grid intersection, C is curvy, and then V is pointy because it's pointed. And that's how easy way to remember those. They're also right next to each other on the keyboard. And then for rotation, if we arbitrarily rotate this, you'll see how it's just kind of like randomly 65 point whatever. If I hold down Shift and do it, it doesn't do anything. But if I hold down J, now it's actually going to snap in these increments. And that's what you want it to happen. That's what you want this to do, is snap rotation. Okay. So again, another hotkey is that transform J for transform, snap. Okay, so that covers all the hotkeys. Plenty of room on here to add other ones to your list, so don't be afraid to add more hotkeys that you find and start to use. And then definitely use these because that's the only way you're going to get faster at them is just keep using them over and over and over again.